Hiya, and welcome to this quick Astranti theory revision video where we're going to be having a catch up on the titles you can see on screen, which is forming high-performing teams and two aspects of that, which will be Tuckman stages and group cohesiveness. I'm going to take you through exactly what all of these are. So let's get started. We'll begin with Tuckman's stages. So Tuckman is a theorist who has suggested that groups at work, or groups that are working together in any environment really, they tend to pass through 4 stages of development after they get together to work together for the very first time. And here are those on screen now. So as you can see, we have stage 1 forming, stage 2 storming, stage 3 norming, and stage 4 performing. We're going to go through those in a bit more detail now. Let's start with forming. So forming is all about making a good personal impression. This is when people get together for the very first time. They maybe don't know each other, or they haven't worked together quite a lot before, so they'd be getting to know each other, learning a bit about each other, having casual chit-chat. The behaviour is going to be very polite at this stage because you don't really know people enough to not be polite, really. And then we move on to stage 2, which is storming. Storming is when people start bargaining with each other. People start trying to decide where they fit within the group, what roles they want to perform, what goals they have, and this can cause some conflict. And that conflict may mean that some individuals drop out at this stage because they might not be comfortable with where the group is going, or their objectives, or their approach to these objectives, and they think, it's just not for me, I'm not a part of this group. Once all that is over, we get to norming, and this is when people start to agree on the ways they're going to work and how they're going to achieve their goals. After all the debate is over, everybody knows their role, everybody knows the task that the team has, and everybody agrees. And that's when we can start performing. This is when the group starts to run smoothly. Everybody understands what they've got to do. Everybody knows how to work together well. This is the stage where everybody starts to make the team a success. So that seems fairly simple, doesn't it? 4 stages that every team is going to go through. It's really important to remember these 4 stages though, because by being aware of the typical stages of a new group starting to work together, managers can actually aim to help move that new group through all the difficult stages at the start as quickly as possible, because then they can get to a successful team working environment as quickly as possible, of course. So they might do this by helping people get to know each other, and that might be having socials, so you might take out your team on a group away day or even a nice lunch, because while that's not directly related to the work you do, it's a good way to get to know each other and build a rapport and strengthen relationships early on. You might do it in more formal ways by kind of facilitating group discussion, or you might even skip through the bargaining section and the storming section by directly allocating roles so there is no debate or disagreement. Another thing that's worth knowing about these 4 stages that Tuckman has come up with is that actually later Tuckman added another stage which is known as dorming. This is where the group has been performing quite well for a while, but they actually stop performing well and they don't manage to adapt to changing circumstances. They become dormant in that sense, and that is why it's called dorming. This means that it's really important that if you are managing a group, you must continually review how they're doing, what the environment is like, if there are any changes that need to be made, in order to make sure that they stay effective after getting used to working together. So, that was Tuckman stages. Now let's move on to something called group cohesiveness. So this is another fairly simple concept. In order to get your group to work together well and cohesively and as a unified group, there are 3 factors you should consider. So we have, as you can see on screen, group membership, environment, and dynamic. Let's have a look at group membership first. So group membership basically means that you need to make sure that the members of your team have the right skills, knowledge and ability that means they can work well together, so not just as individuals but as a wider group. Another thing to know about group membership is that sometimes people might be members of more than one group. Perhaps you work in project teams and people get switched around, or you just have an environment at your organisation that means that people might borrow members of your team to help them catch up with work. And the thing about that is, if somebody is a member of more than one group, that can actually have a detrimental effect on their loyalty and focus for your group. So that's something you may need to be aware of as well. Next we have environment, which is all about things outside the group, things that are external and can have an effect on what happens within the group. So there are some questions you may want to consider. For example, is your group supported by management well, and is it well funded? Is the task that you're aiming to achieve being achieved consistently within the organisation's goals and strategy? And are there any other external factors that might affect the way the group works? So by that we mean economical, political, or maybe even technological. And lastly we have dynamic. As we saw in Tuckman earlier with the dorming stage, groups can change, and they can change quite a lot, and it tends to happen continually. So as staff members change, that can change the dynamics of your group, which means that you need to carefully manage these changes and be aware of how they impact your team. And there we go. That is everything you need to know about forming high-performing teams. We talked about Tuckman and we talked about group cohesiveness. Now this, as you can see if I zoom out, is actually part of a wider discussion that we've had on groups at Astranti. This is actually part of our presentation and tuition video series for your E2 and your management case study revision. Now, it's not the only thing we offer. If you are not somebody who likes to listen to too much or watch too much, or you find it easier to come back to notes, you may prefer to use our study texts, which are a comprehensive guide to everything you need to know to your CIMA studies. And we've also got revision notes, which are a nice condensed version of that for if you're in a pinch or if you just want a refresher. On top of this, you can get really practical with your revision by answering some of our hundreds of fully explained practice questions. And we also have many more fully comprehensive and engaging tuition videos performed by our helpful Astranti tutors, who will also be at your beck and call to make sure you pass that exam first time. If that still hasn't convinced you that it's worth checking out, if you go to our website at the moment, which is www.astranti.com, we also have some free samples available so you can give some of the resources a try before you buy. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me talk about some of our CIMA content. We'd really appreciate it if you like this video and subscribe to our channel for more insightful videos in a bite-sized format. Good luck with the rest of your studies, and thank you for watching.